What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unlocking Kingdom Hearts. We're here to talk about Kingdom Hearts 1. It is episode 1. I'm very excited to begin this journey with this lovely panel that you see or are going to hear in the coming moments. First off, we have Jonathon Dornbush. How are you doing, Jonathon?
I'm doing well. I was really struggling and debating if I was going to open with a Mickey Mouse impression. I decided against it because I haven't done one in a while, so I was worried. But otherwise, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about the first Kingdom Hearts. I love it a lot, and I'm excited to jump in.
I think that was the right call. And secondly, we have Alexa Ray Korea. How are you, Alexa?
Great, but now I'm really curious about this Mickey Mouse impression, so I hope
Same
we
here.
get it, at least during this episode.
Same here.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, we have plenty of episodes to go along. You know, we'll probably forget about this, and then it'll happen, and we'll all just be like, "Whoa, what
In
was
true
that?"
Kingdom Hearts fashion.
Exactly. And last but not least, we have Kevin Diaz. Kevin, how are you doing?
Doing good. Wait, so John, like, was it like you were going to attempt it, or like historically speaking?
Oh no,
you've been really
I
good at it?
can.
Or
I can.
you-
I don't.
you-
I
you
wouldn't say
can't?
it's good, but I do one.
Okay,
And
that's hype,
so I
that's
was
hype.
debating
I see,
doing
I
it now,
see.
but yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
It-
fair enough. So just a quick, some quick housekeeping before we get into the thick of it. I want to say thank you to Jeremiah George. Jeremiah is the one who allowed us to use his track Hearts of Ambivalence as the official opening track to this podcast. Go follow Jeremiah over on YouTube, where you can listen to several compositions, whether it be video game covers, original compositions, and the like. YouTube.com/user/3 Lance Pro. And you can also follow him on Twitter at JGeorgeVGM. And yeah, that's all. That was really something that I wanted to. I actually forgot to mention that on episode 0. I'm a monster. But now I've gotten it taken care of. Go follow Jeremiah again. It was very nice of him to just let us use it. So, but yeah, we're gonna just hop into Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 1 is the first game released in the series. Kingdom Hearts was developed by Squaresoft and Disney Interactive. The game was directed by series creator Tetsuya Nomura, making it his first project in the director's chair after a good tenure already at Squaresoft at the time, which later was turned into Square Enix, which is worth mentioning that Kingdom Hearts is the last Squaresoft game before Squaresoft and Enix combined and created Square Enix. So leading up to Kingdom Hearts, Nomura was already known for doing character design for Final Fantasy VII, as well as receiving credits to the story of Final Fantasy VII. It was actually recently learned that Tetsuya Nomura himself is responsible for the death of Aerith, one of the most well-known story moments in all of
God
video
damn
game
it.
history.
Damn.
Nomura was the one who's like, "Hey, why don't we kill Aerith?"
It's always
and-
Nomura. It's always
Oh,
yeah.
Nomura.
Yeah, and also Kingdom Hearts is this is a fun fact technically, which we'll get to later, but like it's relevant now. Kingdom Hearts was the game that kind of resolved the Eris versus Aerith debate, because for those that don't know, Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah.
Aerith is spelled Aeris, and that was just due to the translation of the game. But there's this huge fight. Like, no, it should be Aerith, and this was the game that just ended that debate. It's Aerith, and it forever will be Aerith. Let Aerith reign. So Kingdom Hearts released in Japan on March 28th of 2002, and it later released in North America on September 17th, Europe on November 15th, and Australia on November 22nd of 2002. The definitive version of the game, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, released in Japan on December 26th of 2002, the same year. But then the rest of the world didn't get the Final Mix version of Kingdom Hearts until the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 Remix Collection for the PlayStation 3 in September of 2013, over 10 years later. That sucked. That was a long wait. For those that were OGs, that were there from the beginning. Yeah, that sucked. And then I kind of wanted to go over the differences of Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. So things worth noting: the main menu of Kingdom Hearts shows Sora with a fishbone in his mouth, holding a stick barefoot in the sand and ocean water. And then in Final Mix, it switches to Sora, eyes closed, hooded while holding a flag. The final mix version includes a boss fight against the Unknown, a black hooded figure who dual wields red lightsaber-like weapons. I don't know. I didn't know a better way to explain that character's weapons
I think that's the
outside.
best way.
You know what? I think it's the
Yeah.
best way. Yeah, right.
His power
And
is copyright infringement, is what it is.
exactly. I was just like, when I first saw it, I was like, can they do this?
I mean, retroactively they can, but back then
Yeah.
they couldn't because they didn't know
Yeah.
the powers. But yeah,
Exactly. And then the final mix also included new heartless enemies as well as recoloring of most of them, which I still don't understand why they did that, but whatever. And then in the final mix version, Sora, Donald, and Goofy got 2 extra weapons. Sora's being the one-winged angel for defeating Sephiroth, and the Diamond Dust Keyblade for defeating the Ice Titan. It also included 10 new abilities for Sora and 15 new accessories. And then lastly, I kind of wanted to go over the main voice cast of Kingdom Hearts because with this being a Disney game, this is a pretty stacked voice cast, right? Like, especially at the time, being the early 2000s. Like, so for Sora, we got voiced by Haley Joel Osment, The Sixth Sense. Like, he was the biggest like kid actor of the like late 90s, early 2000s. I think that's a fair statement to make, right? And then we had a Riku voiced by David Gallagher, who hasn't really had many big roles. Like, I think the most notable, I would say, is he played Simon Camden in Seventh Heaven. He was one of the kids.
Mhm.
And he was also in Super 8, which I didn't realize until I watched the scene, but he is the guy who runs the camera shop. He's the stoner. And I was just like, oh, that's yeah. Like, I didn't even think about it, right? Because you don't see him on screen regularly. It didn't really click. And then Kyrie was voiced by Hayden Panettiere, who's
Get
done
Out.
a lot of stuff. Oh
yes.
yeah,
Get
oh
Out.
yeah, oh yeah.
Oh wait, she sounded so familiar. I'm like,
yeah. So like,
I'll just ask them on the podcast because
yeah,
I go look it up.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, Dot
Damn,
in A
that's
Bug's
crazy.
Life. I Love You, Beth Cooper. Heroes, of course, and most recently Nashville.
Until
and
Dawn.
Then,
Don't forget.
And Until Dawn,
oh
yes.
yeah, she is in Until Dawn. She is in Until Dawn. That's true. That's true. I didn't really think about other video game stuff. And then Cloud, voiced by Steve Burton, most notably from General Hospital. And also, this is the first time that Cloud is voiced in anything. Like, not in a Final Fantasy game, and Kingdom Hearts is the first time he is voiced, which is pretty wild to think about. Aerith is voiced by Mandy Moore. Yuffie is voiced by Christy Carlson Romano for the Even Stevens fans out there, Kim Possible fans.
Fire.
This lineup is stacked.
Fire.
Yeah, right? Like, early 2000s, stacked.
Fire.
And I also, like, this is just kind of something I wanted to worth mentioning is Hercules is voiced by Sean Astin. But like, and for those listening, most of the Disney voice cast are the original voices. Outside of like people that probably like have passed away by the time, like, the much older Disney properties, like that, those are likely, new voice actors. But Tate Donovan, who's the original voice of Hercules, didn't do the voice in the first game, and I did some research in that, and it's apparently he couldn't fit it into a schedule. So, but it is worth noting that go ahead.
Those were back in the OC days. That's why he was so busy. He had
Oh, really?
25 episodes. Yeah, he was on the OC. He probably had to do like 18 episodes of that show a season.
I had no. I only knew Tate Donovan from Hercules. So I'm just like,
okay.
Yeah. But he does
You're
come
forgetting.
back and reprise his role later.
You're forgetting Leon. It's David Boreanaz.
Yeah.
Who's that? I don't.
David Boreanaz.
You gotta edit.
Friend.
You gotta educate me. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Angel.
He's Angel from Buffy.
Oh, from Buffy. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like, I know. Like, if you told me that, I know what you're talking about, but I never watched Buffy. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry.
That's okay, but you gotta know who David Boreanaz is.
Yeah.
I do now, but yes, Leon is voiced by that guy, and Sephiroth, come on, voiced by Lance Bass of NSYNC, baby. Like, and it's funny because on his Twitter profile, like, you only have so much you can say, and Lance Bass, like you're you're pretty stacked. You know, you're a pretty notable person. He still puts OG Sephiroth in his bio, but like in his Twitter bio, he
Fire.
cares about that shit apparently. So shout out to you, Lance Bass. But yeah, so stacked voice cast. This, you know, only some of a few, and again, most, if not, you know, again, like most of the Disney voice cast that voiced their respective characters came back for this game. So if you think, oh, is that the original voice? The answer is likely yes. So yeah, it's time to dig in deep about the game, everything we want to talk about. And I'm going to start with you, Jonathan, because I know that you still have a really soft spot for Kingdom Hearts 1 specifically. And so I kind of wanted to dig in more on like why that is and like what are the specific things that stand out for this entry of the series compared to the rest.
Yeah. So for me, it's and obviously I know you had mentioned it, Cam, but like fully going into spoilers or just touching on everything of it because hopefully you've played if you're listening. But for me, the reason I think I love Kingdom Hearts 1 so much and still do after coming back to it, though maybe like after playing all this, it may not be my favorite necessarily, but it's still really high up there, I think, for me because of how well it pulls off the marriage of Disney and not necessarily even Final Fantasy, because I was coming from it of not knowing Final Fantasy, but the marriage of Disney and this original JRPG story. And so the way it blended the two of those things, and you know, we'll get into this as I think the series goes on, and sort of the liberties Disney let them take to tell an original story using their characters. Obviously, a lot of the worlds recount elements of their movies or, you know, elements of the worlds that we know from those Disney TV shows and films, but they were able to do so much original stuff. And so as such a big Disney fan, it was like, oh wow, all of the princesses matter in this new sort of format, all of the villains being together and being this group of villains. Like that's, I think that's why the Villainous board game exists, is because that idea from Kingdom Hearts is just so cool and like such an amazing thing. And so to have all of that there, I think all of that stuff is still pulled off really, really well. And I think the escalation then of Sora, Riku, and Kairi's story within that, as it relates to all of that, it is pulled off very well and gets its time to shine, but also gets its time to shine within these other stories shining. And so I think that balance for me is what I always really loved about it. I do think like on mechanical levels, obviously some of the later games pulled off much better stuff and improved on some of the systems, but I think you can see so many of the fundamentals here and so many of the basics that matter to the series as it went on, I think are really well solidified for a first go. I think that's a lot of where my nostalgia and love for it comes, is because I think they got so much right on the first go, which doesn't always happen. Like sometimes it's often the first game can have like one really big thing that people attach themselves to, and then it gets improved in the sequel. But here, like across the board, for me at least, a lot of stuff works really well. And so coming back to it now, it sort of reaffirmed all of that. I'm excited because I haven't played most of the later games as recently, so that's going to be a fun experience to finally compare them. But I think that's like the big picture why my love for one kind of stands so strongly.
Awesome. And yeah, like I was gonna say that the scene where it's just the silhouettes of all the Disney villains like around the table discuss, like what a great moment. Like
hype.
what the energy there
That
is
was
so
hype.
Oh, yeah.
good.
I was like, oh,
And
man.
it's actually really cool too, because this is another one of the fun facts I had planned out, is that like, because that scene happens after you finish like the first world, like that's after like Traverse Town. So like if you don't go to Wonderland first, because Wonderland is supposed to kind of be the first world based off like the difficulty,
Mhm.
instead of Alice showing up in that scene, it's Snow White. If you go to Deep Jungle first, it changes. And that's an ongoing theme in a lot, in like, not in a, I would say, a big way, where it changes the plot in any way, but there are a lot of alternative scenes depending on things that you do throughout the game or don't do. Like if you win versus Leon in Traverse Town, or if you win or lose against Cloud and like Olympus Coliseum, like there are alternative scenes to the outcomes of that, and that's like kind of attention to detail that isn't in the rest of the series. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
this happens, you know. But Kevin, this is
Oh
the
my
first
God.
game.
I was gonna
How you
let
feeling?
Alexa go first. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
What?
no, no, no,
No?
no,
No, I'm
Okay,
ready
okay,
for you,
okay,
baby.
okay,
Let's go.
No, no, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hated it. No, I'm playing. No, I
Tired. See you later.
I was actually really shocked at how much I really enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? Because like in an inverse effect of like, I bet a lot of those that grew up with Kingdom Hearts came at it from like a Disney fandom, and then they got into Final Fantasy with these characters. I kind of had the inverse where it was like, okay, like it's not like I never knew about Goofy or Donald. Like obviously, like I knew who they were, whatever. So like that was a face that was obviously something that like I knew from my past, but wasn't really that close to. But then once I saw Aerith, and then once I saw my boy Sid, I freaked out. Like my boy Sid, I was like, okay, like I came at it from, I feel like, a reverse effect where like I knew these Final Fantasy characters from specifically Final Fantasy 7. And like seeing them in this, and then also getting reminded of the storylines of all these worlds. Like I could really see like if I played this as a young kid, I think I would have loved this. You know what I'm saying? And like I think that this game executed something that just like Jonathan said, where it was like, I feel like on paper this sounds like something that should not have worked, and I feel like it worked pretty well. You know, overall, like all things there, like it's not a perfect game, right? But I don't think it's like, I don't even think it really feels dated, to be honest. Like I don't really even think it feels like that old of a game. Like when you know see that, like granted like this is Final Mix, and like I don't know if they changed anything gameplay wise or like mechanics wise really, other than just like adding bonus content onto the Final Mix version. But if this is like pretty much the same gameplay as it was back in 2002, I believe, when this game came out, like it definitely does not feel like 2002. You know what I'm saying? At least I would say personally. And yeah, I have a lot of compliments to say. A lot of things to discuss, a lot of things to shout out. But if this is like the low that we're at, like well, I think you guys said that there's a game lower. Like there's definitely like a worse game that you guys
Kingdom
Low is
Hearts is
subjective.
Okay, that's fair.
I
That's
think
fair. That's fair.
I think
That's
I
fair.
personally think that Kingdom Hearts is respectfully like in the middle
Okay.
of
Yes.
like,
Okay.
you know, but I do think that there is a big gap in between like both upwards and downwards.
Okay, I see. Okay.
In the series. So like use this as like your middle point as of
Okay.
right
Yeah.
now. I think that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah. Overall, then I'm pretty high on Kingdom Hearts 1. Like pretty high. Like a lot.
Oh,
Not
you
that-
ain't ready then.
Not
You ain't ready.
Oh god.
Not that like I was like expecting it to be, you know, bad or whatever, but it definitely exceeded expectations in like a lot of ways that I was not thinking it ever would, you know. So
Love to hear it.
So we're on a good baseline so far. A good baseline for sure. For sure.
This is also this is
go
I was gonna say to Kevin, this is the game that is gonna make the most sense to you
Yep.
immediately having finished it, because from here on out it's just all downhill, uphill, sideways. You got
it's a roller coaster.
it's a roller coaster. You got mistaken identity, body snatching, time travel, all that shit. Like it like here we go.
Okay.
Here's the beginning. Here we go.
Okay.
I need to know. Okay, I'm gonna play a little game with you. Okay, I'm gonna say the name of a world in Kingdom Hearts 1, and I want your knee-jerk reaction
Okay.
to this world.
Got it.
Okay,
Oh,
and I'm gonna ask him a couple.
Okay.
Monstro.
It was alright. It was cool. It was cool. I liked the like waves of enemies and like how they kind of like formulated that, you know. And I think like there's like a lot of like really good payoffs, even though like it's not like a super long world. But I'll say more than that. No, like it's good. I'll give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up.
Cameron made a face. You don't like Monstro.
No. I thought you were just immediately going to be like, what do you think of Atlantica?
What's next? What do you think of Atlantica?
That's no, that's a hard.
No, Atlantica is notoriously hated. Like notoriously hated.
Notoriously hated.
Yeah,
People...
I was down for it early on. I was like, okay, like, you know, this can't last, you know, that long, right? Like they can't have like a whole underwater world where like I've learned how this game feels throughout hours and hours of all these different worlds, and we get to this one and it's like, and they flip it upside down. But no, it went on and on. Yeah. That one's not my favorite. Definitely, probably my least favorite overall.
Yeah.
People are really like, I know people are hype on the Little Mermaid, and people who haven't played Kingdom Hearts are always like, oh, like, and like you get to like be in the Little Mermaid world, and I'm always like, and anyone who tells me that they've played this game and they love Atlantica didn't play the game. I'm convinced they're lying. Like they're talking out their butt. Like it's not correct. Atlantica will be like that. Like you're not done with Atlantica yet. I don't want to. There's some more coming.
Why'd you say that?
We're not gonna get into the depths of it, but what I'm gonna say about Atlantica and Kingdom Hearts 2, I'll take that way over what we got in Kingdom Hearts 1. Like it's one of those things. Like I get it. I get.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I like rhythm games, so I'm just like, oh, okay.
I mean, I like good rhythm games, but
I mean that's true. That's also true. But like, it's just one of those things where I'm like,
sure.
Yeah.
We'll get into it for 2.
We'll get into it when we get to Kingdom Hearts 2.
I will say last thing. I will say, although I did not like Atlantica, and I feel like a lot of people definitely don't, right? I can at least respect it. I can respect that they're like, hey, like this is gonna be all underwater, right? And like we're gonna do this, whether you like it or not. So at least to a certain degree, I at least respect it.
And also, if you think about it at the time, like I think it did underwater stuff better than most games, even though it was still bad. You know what I mean? Because like it's really, even nowadays, it's hard to do good underwater stuff. Like there are very few games where I'm like, I actually enjoyed the underwater segments, and in this game or the other. But yeah. So, but Alexa,
yes,
Kingdom Hearts 1.
Kingdom Hearts
Please
1.
tell us your thoughts.
I feel like this is the most Disney we've gotten, and just thinking forward into the series, this is the most Disney of the games. I agree that I think it married them really well. You start off like it's sort of like whereas the other games end with these big long segments in new worlds that are super Kingdom Heartsy, like we have like the world that never was coming up, and we had End of the World in this one, but I feel like you don't spend as much time in End of the World as you do in like other places. Like we spend more time in Disney worlds. I think there's this one, and then I think Kingdom Hearts 2 has the most Disney worlds in it. Like I wrote them all down before we got on this call, and like this is like Wonderland, Olympus, Deep Jungle, which I forgot about until I played again. Agrabah, Monstro, Atlantica, Halloween Town, Neverland, 100 Acre Wood, and then you have the Dalmatians. Like it is just, and you have Merlin. Like it is stacked with Disney content. So I would say Kingdom Hearts 1 is the most Disney, and I love it. And I feel like things get more anime and come off the rails the farther you go in. Which is why though Kingdom Hearts 1 is not my most favorite of the series. Kingdom Hearts 2 I think is my favorite. But Kingdom Hearts 1 for me really subtly sets up a lot of the big themes of like friendship and like learning about yourself and like where you fit in the world based on the people you interact with, and where you fit on the world based on what's out there that you haven't like experienced yet, and the desire to do more and be more, which is Riku, and the themes of like companionship and learning to trust and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of it. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 is not, if you're looking at it sort of critically from that lens, doesn't have a lot of that stuff in it yet. Like we're dealing with the darkness, but we're not like really dealing with the darkness. Like Riku hasn't gone through his shit yet, and the darkness is still kind of like cute little Heartless and Maleficent and villains around a table, and it's super camp. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 is camp, absolute camp. But I think that's why I like it, is because it's kind of light and a little bit fluffier and a little bit more, I don't want to say fun is the wrong word, but it's a little more lighthearted, I guess, than what's to come. So I think it's a good start. Get ready, Kevin.
I think you make a good point, because like going into Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2 without getting the spoilers, like there's a tonal shift.
Oh, fully.
And it like to the point where like it feel, and like maybe no more on purpose, but like it feels a lot more adult like pretty quickly, to the point where like you're controlling at that point like a 15-year-old boy, but he feels a lot more mature than that. Like even though he's like, oh, like I care about my friends, stuff like that, like he like it feels like he's went through something, and he has grown exponentially as a character. And it'll be interesting to see how Kevin feels about that as we continue through the journey. But yeah, last time I played Kingdom Hearts was like leading up to Kingdom Hearts 3. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play through all the games, obviously. And when I finished playing the game, I was like, if I never had to play Kingdom Hearts 1 again, I'd be okay with that. Because I had enough problems. I was like, man, the movement in this game compared to the series moving on, trash, like absolute trash. I was just like, this game has not aged well. Like, this game is due for a remake if we could get one. Things like that, and like, I think I was too harsh at that time. But I still feel that way in almost every sense, just like not as strongly. Like, I do think it hasn't aged like that well. Again, the movement, especially when you just like when you go back to that after what you get specifically in like Kingdom Hearts 2, it's just like it's kind of like whiplash in a sense where it's just like, oh, this feels off compared to playing going backwards, if that makes sense. And I think that there's I think the thing that's like so great about playing Kingdom Hearts 1 is, again, after like going through everything, it's just, again, kind of like what Alexis says, just seeing all the seeds, whether they were intended or not at the time of making the game. Because Nomura said that like he had up to Kingdom Hearts 2 planned out at the time of making Kingdom Hearts 1 when it came to the story. So like seeing things that weren't already planned seeded in this game, it's like, God, Nomura's just a genius. Like, whether you like him or not, he, like, the way he does these things, and like it's like, how? Like, I don't know. It's like, I've been watching Attack on Titan, right? And just like kind of like how these kind of revelations have been happening. It's like, how did they make this work? Like, and that's what Kingdom Hearts is like a lot of the time. And I think that I think it's a good game still. And I think that, I guess when you think about like the games that did come out around that time, it has aged better than a lot of games. But I still think that it hasn't aged super well. And I don't know, like, I would need a reason to go back and play it again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm never gonna play this game again like I was last time. But I was like, I need a good reason to come back to this, because there's just so many things that, like, from a gameplay perspective, that's just like, I get all of this better in almost any other Kingdom Hearts game. So that's kind of how I feel about the game, so like about Kingdom Hearts 1 specifically. But I wanted to Kevin, you said that you got some stuff you wanted to talk about regarding like how are you feeling about the characters here?
Yeah.
How are you
Oh
feeling
my
about the
goodness.
characters?
I need to get
How you
some
like our boy
shout-outs.
Sora? How you like Riku, Kairi?
Who's your favorite?
My
Yeah, who's your favorite?
okay, I want to give a big shout out. Big shout out to Tinkerbell. All right, listen, she helped me a lot. Listen, she helped me a
She's the
lot.
best summon in the game.
At
So
first-
She is, yeah.
At first,
Yes.
I was like, okay, are you gonna be helpful though? You know what I'm saying? And then it was the dragon fight. Why am I forgetting her name?
Maleficent?
Maleficent dragon fight.
Yep.
Where I'm
Yep.
like, how am I gonna be able to like sustain my health during this? I don't know what's going on. And then I tried Tinkerbell. I'm like, oh, you're refilling my health. But if I go down and I fully drain, you're gonna fill me up, but then you're gonna leave. So it's like, okay, if I can just keep my health up, right? Keep my distance, keep going in, doing attacks, get my distance, making sure I don't fully deplete, you'll stay with me forever. Tinkerbell's she's the one. She's the one. Also,
yeah.
also Belle for her she gave me a key.
Divine Rose.
Divine Rose, shout out to that. Big fan.
Good blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else? Oh, I found Donald to be hilarious in terms of like when like he would scream. I just always
Yeah, he
I love
does
it.
scream a lot in that
So
first
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude, I feel you. Goofy was definitely so how I rank the supporting, right? In terms of Donald and Goofy, I definitely put Goofy over Donald, right? Not
Yeah.
sure why or what happened, but Goofy always had more inventory in him. so I could always throw him more high potions and all that, and like elixirs and everything.
Yeah.
And he just seemed like more down for the fight, you know.
Heal you, you mean?
Yeah.
Down to heal you? Unlike the guy with the magic?
No,
Who could heal you?
I mean, I just feel like Donald was always like low health or like dead. I don't know. Donald just wasn't really.
He dies real quick.
He
That
was
is
glass cannon. He was glass cannon.
Yeah,
he deals out the damage, but like he's weak.
I feel like Goofy was like really like, all right, we're gonna do this in like every fight encounter. So that meant, when I would have like Tarzan in my party or another person in my party, Goofy would get swapped out. No, I'm sorry, Donald would get swapped out.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Goofy. Donald was hilarious, but he was also helpful. Who else? I'm trying to think who else. Those were just like knee-jerk ones that I enjoyed a lot. And yeah. In terms of I feel like I liked Riku and Kairi both kind of in a similar vein. I guess like you spend, I feel like, more time with Riku, right?
Yeah.
And you do.
Yeah, like definitely like
as an ongoing theme
yeah.
in this series and with Riku and Kairi.
And I think and like my like one like lasting like thought I had about Riku, right? Which was like midway through the point of the game. I remember talking to Christian and being like, "Oh man, like Riku's messing up. I don't know. He's falling to the dark side. I don't know what's going on. I don't really like Riku that much." But then by the end of the story, right? Riku really. I'm right now at the point where it's like I don't necessarily blame Riku, right? Because like I now understand that we both want we both want the same thing, right? Like we both want to save Kairi, and that has always been consistent, right? It's just now I feel a little bit more like, damn, like I feel for you, Riku, because like you just wanted to save Kairi just like me, but you were seduced and you fell to means that just were not the means that I fell into, right? And that just so happened to be darkness. You know what I'm saying? And like I understand that, like, at least how I interpret it. Let me know if I'm like wrong on this, but like I feel like Riku like trusted Maleficent and all that, she was saying and like promising him power. But ultimately, like, I feel like his end goal was to save Kairi. Right?
Yeah.
In the same vein that Sora was also trying to reach Kairi, right? And I just feel like Riku just went just down a different path to get to that, or at least to try to get to that. So I don't really, I do think there was Riku, but
I do think there was a sense of just like Riku not knowing what he was getting into, but also like I don't know if that would have really changed his
That's fair.
choices at the end of the day.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
I would say, this again, I'm trying not to go too far ahead into the series because you're saying all these things and it's pinging all of my brain cells that are like, but like, I personally, I find Riku's journey way more compelling than Sora's journey through these games. And yes. Yes, like his journey, like Sora's the main character, but Riku is the main character. Like and when we talk about Kingdom Hearts 2, I'll just get my book and just read from it. But like it's his journey has a lot of themes of like it's a metaphor for like self-struggle, mental illness, like all that stuff. Like he goes through everything, whereas Sora's just like, okay, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna do the thing now, which is like the running theme. And also Riku's relationship to Sora is far more compelling than Sora's relationship to Kairi and Kairi's relationship with Riku, because Riku and Sora have this bond that is it's not like the Sora and Kairi's bond, which like sometimes is like vaguely romantic and sometimes is like, no, we're just like really good friends. Like it always kind of straddles that line. But Sora and Riku are bonded, and like the boys, deepest kind of they're boys. It's like the deepest kind of friendship, and that what happens to Riku and how Sora views that and how Riku self-flagellates. Like at the end of the game, he's just like, just shut me in here, I'll figure it out. Like I'll do it. Like I'm gonna go with this mouse. Like I'll figure it out. He takes that. He takes that. And there's that cutscene that was added for Final Mix where he wakes up in the darkness and Mickey's like, "Hey, like I'm here. Like what's going on with you?" And that's sort of his he starts to realize like, okay, I definitely put myself in this situation, and he's got ear and he's sad and he's also feels an intense amount of shame for everything that he's put Sora through, he's put Kairi through. Like, yes, his intentions were good, but he just kind of like went down a different path for it, and so he takes that shame and he literally flees. And what he goes through, like when we get to Chain of Memories, like dude, what he goes through. Oh man.
He basically is like, I need to atone for my actions. And that's like that him going to the other side of that door was like, I need to figure shit out on my own. But I, and he didn't like that felt like a goodbye. That felt like I may never see you again, but I got to do this on my own. And that I
cried harder
cry today.
when he shut that door, when he was like, hey, you like, like you push, I'll pull, like we'll do it together, and he starts pulling. I started sobbing, and I was just like, and like as the ending plays and like him and Kairi are separating, I'm like, I don't care about you. Where's Riku? Like, where did he go?
That ending's still sad though. It's like one of those things where I think the thing that makes Riku's stuff so compelling is that the game does a good job in a way that's like not too overbearing to know like Riku should be the chosen one, but he's not, and you're gonna see him go down this path anyway. You know what I mean? And like, and so I think that like when it comes to Sora stuff, it's like, yeah, Sora stuff is still good, and it's because that like him and Kairi are supposed to be together, and Riku knows that, even though like that's not what he wants. It's like it's one of those things like the game just. I think the game does a good way of just saying like, hey, this guy who's a good guy, but isn't the main character. Wants to be with Kairi, but he knows that is like that's not going to happen. And he's just like, and we just see him go on this other path of his own self. And they actually like do something with Riku instead of him just being like Sora's number 2. You know what I mean? And I think that is what makes Riku's stuff really interesting, because it's more than just like, oh, you're more than just like, it feels like a Naruto Sasuke kind of relationship in the sense, except for like ignoring personalities aside, but like that kind of like, not, I don't want to say rivalry, but sense of recognition of each other's roles, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
In their lives. I think that's like a good way of explaining it.
And also, like, when they're on the island, like, prior to the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, it's Sora is definitely the number 2 to Riku. Like, Riku runs the show. It's all about him. So when the Keyblade thing happens and all this happens and Sora is running around with Donald and Goofy and kind of getting all these attaboys, and Riku is like, well, I'm supposed to be the one who's leading the charge. I'm the main character. And so he has that struggle of, like, because he has always viewed himself in the lens of, like, how Sora views him and how Kairi views him. So when that view changes, he struggles and he fights against that. And there are moments in later games when you get a really interesting perspective look at Riku from some other characters that don't know him as long. Like, we get to see how, like, for the people who have played those games already, like how when Terra meets Riku and has those thoughts about him. When Aqua sees him and has those like thoughts about him, like he's the main character. He's the real main character. That's how I feel.
Look, the thing that, and we can like move off of Riku after this. I want to see what Jonathon thinks as well.
Yeah, same.
But I think that, like, I mean, Riku, again, this is kind of back to the Naruto Sasuke comparison. Like, even though Sasuke like is clearly like more talented, blah 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 blah, than Naruto, like at the end of the day, he still sees Naruto as his equal. Like he recognizes that in Hollow Bastion, right? He's like, you've made me stronger and I've made you stronger, like that type of thing, like that kind of that respect, recognition. Even though Riku doesn't really know why, or he doesn't like, he has trouble accepting that. Like, he still recognizes it and is willing to tell Sora, hey, like, I know that we're on equal ground. So Jonathan, your thoughts
Yeah.
on Riku?
I just didn't want to interrupt because I agree with I think a lot of the things you guys are saying, and it also was so passionate. I was like, oh, there's no good time for me to just be like, but also I agree. But no, I think like to just go to that general point of Riku versus Sora, of like who the main character is. I think for me it's always just like Riku's story is more emotionally complex and deep in a way that like he from minute one has to be more mature. Like he goes through so much from his state of mind, and then the way that Maleficent kind of preys on his moment of weakness to be able to really play to that.
Yeah.
His journey is so fascinating in that way, but I also get why they make us play as Sora, because to a certain extent, like Sora is a less emotionally complex character. Like he's pretty easy to read, and
Yeah.
that's okay for an RPG like this, because at the end of the day, it is about experiencing the wider story and all these characters. And I think if he was too deep and complex a character, I'd almost get lost a little bit in focusing on him rather than everything else going on around. And I think it allows those side characters to be elevated in that way, for characters like Riku to get that journey that, even though we don't get to see every minute of it or don't get to be in his shoes for it, I am so drawn to it as a story I want to keep learning about, because we it's very easy to kind of understand Sora's mindset at any point in both this game and I think most of the series. But with Riku, learning about what he went through and seeing how that's caused him to evolve from game to game or from moment to moment, I think is such a fascinating journey, because you're not in those shoes. Like, because you don't always have all that information, it's fascinating to see. Is there a world where you could have played this whole series from Riku's perspective? Probably, yeah. But I think you get the fun RPG of it from the Sora side, and then you get like some really great, as we're hinting at but not wanting to spoil, journey that he goes on, and the things that he learns and the places that he comes to. And he is just a more emotionally resonant character for me on every level. I love Sora's message of friendship and power and all that, but it's there. It's always there. It is so core to the series. Whereas with Riku, you get, I think, the stuff that goes beyond what people may think of as a Disney story, even though Disney stories can be emotionally complex and people sometimes don't realize that. But like, I think you start to get the darker side of things from Riku from minute one. And that seeds, kind of as you guys were saying, the darkness, or not darkness, but the more adult themes that come into play as it goes on. And I think that's why so many of us are drawn to Riku's story, is because there is so much going on there in a way that's not always going on with Sora, as much as I love him.
But Sora definitely has his moments,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. So yeah. I'm trying to think what else do we want to Okay, I got something to talk about. So what dream weapon did y'all pick up in the beginning, and which one did you sacrifice? We got the sword, the shield, and the rod.
Yeah.
I can say I picked the rod and I sacrificed the sword.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
doesn't that put you at kind of a disadvantage?
I will explain what all that does after
Okay, all right.
y'all say.
Oh, okay. This I always pick the sword, and I always sacrifice the rod. That's like
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
I'm a little bit of
Very
a
interesting.
brute force kind of person, so I just
See, here's the thing about the sword. Like, the sword to me is the least appealing, simply because, like, well, I mean, like, I don't want to say one, you basic, but like it's kind of basic, and two, like for me, I think that Kingdom Hearts, one more than like 2 and 3, I would say. I feel like when we get to the other side games and there's the deck mechanic, it's a little bit more complicated. But like, out of the 3 main games, I think that magic is like the most crucial in the first game to use. So like having arrow to like as a defense, and
Facts.
um you
Facts.
know, I think that like almost all the spells have some sort of general use in Kingdom Hearts 1, while in like Kingdom Hearts 2 it's like reflect magic, I win. Like, you know what I mean? Like that I think that I always felt like the necessity to like have more MP, especially because like I played through the game on proud mode, and proud mode is hard, believe it or not. So yeah, I just think that having that extra MP is nice, and like losing that attack, sure, but I would rather lose attack than lose defense or lose magic. You know what I mean? Like in the sense of like survivability, I care more about surviving than dealing damage. So that's why I picked the rod and sacrificed the sword. Kev, what'd you do?
Ooh.
So like the way they ask you it, it's very much like, how do you feel like as a player, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kept the shield and then dropped the sword.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt like the sword, like, I'm not like trying to like obviously say like Alexa is. I'm not.
I'm pure DPS,
Yeah,
so don't
yeah.
worry about it. Like, go
I know
for
like
it.
that's intent, but like I was really trying to like break down like what is this game trying to tell me, that like what best aligns with like what you feel, right? Like as Kevin, right? So I just, and I think the shield said something about like, oh, like would you like someone who would like who's sticks by their friends or like something like that. And then
Oh, that's something later. That's something
Yeah,
later. This is
something
just
like-
Yeah, we'll get to that question after.
Oh,
but
wait.
this right now, it's just the dream weapons. They're two different things.
Yeah.
that affect the game.
in the way beginning of the game, right? Like when you
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I definitely dropped the shield. No,
You
chose
took
the
the shield, you
shield,
dropped the
I
sword.
got the sword. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then Jonathan, what'd you do?
For this one, grabbed the shield, partially because I do enjoy the moments where you get to actually fight with the shield for like 30 seconds. 'Cause that's always fun.
Yeah.
And then I dropped the sword.
Hey.
Wow, we all did something different. That's really. Wait, no.
No,
Y'all did
me
something.
and
Y'all did the
Jonathan
same.
did the
same.
Dang it. Okay, but we're close. Still, I like that we had the variety. We all picked one different one at the very least. So what those do is, first off, whatever weapon you pick determines what abilities you get at specific levels. So me and Alexa at like level 5 for example would get a different ability as we level up. And then and that's how it goes all the way through to level 100, which is really cool.
So brilliant. So cool.
And then
Yeah.
depending on which you pick and sacrifice determines your beginning stats.
Okay.
So cool. I just think that's so cool. Like that
Yeah.
whole setup.
Yeah. It's iconic at this point. Like when you see the stained glass and you see the 3 weapons, it really does feel like, at least for me, it like, because I'm not a big Zelda person, but so for me, that feels like the take this with you moment in Zelda.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that's what this moment feels like for me in Kingdom Hearts. So yeah, that's a fun fact. And then for the questions that how do you properly pronounce it, Alexa? The Titus.
Oh, it's freaking Titus. It's Titus, and I hate it. You don't have to just say Titus.
It's
Titus
Titus.
is stupid.
Titus Walker and Selfie. I'll ask you a question, and all that really matters is when does your journey begin, Kevin? When did it say your journey began? It was either dawn, midday, or midnight.
Oh, and you had to pick? I don't know if I remember that.
No. It tells you. It shows you based off of the answers of the questions.
Oh,
And it'll tell you your journey begins.
I don't know.
Do you not remember?
I don't know if I remember. Is there a way I can figure it out? Is there a way?
No, not at this point.
No.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
What about you, Alexa?
Yeah, that's dark.
My journey begins at dawn.
Okay. And then what about you, Jonathan?
Midday for me this time.
I also picked midday.
Damn, I wish.
So depending on the answers that you pick will determine dawn, midday, or midnight. And so if you pick dawn, you level up quicker from level 1 to 49. If you pick midday, you level out equally across the board. And if you begin at midnight, you level up quicker from 51 to 100.
Okay. I see,
So
I see.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Interesting.
It's very, very cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
And it's also like the way that Kingdom Hearts sets those up too is like those are really like Kevin was like thinking about them as like how he would feel about it, and like these
Yeah.
are really kind of personal preference, like you questions, and that affects your growth path through this game, which is just like chef kiss fingers, so good.
Yeah,
Very,
like
very cool.
all my subsequent runs from it after the first one, like I've always picked based on how I wanted the playstyle to be. But that first time, it felt personal. It felt like, oh, I'm making an important choice. This is gonna matter to like my life, not just this game. You know, it didn't, but it was fun for that to like really set the stage. I think for how emotionally connected so many of us obviously get to this series.
Okay, now knowing that those affect like at what sections of the game that you level up at what rate and all that, I do remember when I was fighting the final boss, I was at like 51. And I and that was the one time in the game I felt like, okay, I need to go to the Coliseum and rank up because like this is not working. And I never felt like below level until that point. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe this might be placebo, I don't know, but maybe I was ranking up faster in that 0 to 50 range, right? So what that would be,
Okay, yeah. So
that's
maybe we're done.
yeah, maybe done. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking because that was the only time in the game where I felt like I was under leveled for sure, you know.
Mhm.
And then I did the Coliseum for like a few hours and got up to like 55, which definitely took longer than I feel like it did for the rest of the game. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
chalked that up to like, oh, okay, maybe, you know, I just require more XP to rank up, which I think the game does do that naturally, I feel like.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's what I'll say. So, but next time I'll pay more attention to that and definitely get those answers written down and all that for sure. For sure.
So, in the beginning of the game, did you beat Riku in the race?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. I did.
Alexa, did you?
Not this time, I didn't.
Not this time.
I like something happened and I like got a sweaty palm and I was like, oh. So
What about you,
whooped
Jonathan?
my ass.
Yeah, not this time either. There was my first time I kept reloading the save so that I could beat him. It was a point of pride when I first played the game.
Yeah, I normally lose because the thing is, like, I try and go up the ladder and you try and get the zip line, but it's a PS2 game, so it's so finicky on like whether you actually grab it or not. And I think that time it actually worked for me. I'm like, oh, thank God. So I actually did end up winning.
Nice.
But yeah, so Kevin, tell us your thoughts on the story of Kingdom Hearts so far.
Wow, that's a
You know?
that's a
What is Kingdom Hearts?
What is Kingdom Hearts? Yeah, just give us your thoughts on just the general, everything with the Disney villains and how that kind of translates into Ansem and just maybe a little bit of theories on where you think the story might go from here.
Yeah, I do
Your
have
favorite moments, things like that.
Yeah. Overall, like I did really like the story, but like I will say, like as I was playing through, there's a good section of I'm gonna pull up the like worlds list like to kind of give a gauge, but like I feel like once we like leave the Colosseum, right, and then we have things like deep jungle,
Oh, so
Agrabah, monster.
you did the Coliseum before Deep Jungle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah, so so what I would do is that I would have the IGN guide up and
Okay.
I went in that particular order, right? But
Yeah.
I would only use the guide if I truly felt like I didn't know where to go next. You know, then I would
Mhm.
lightly use it as just like a guide to like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to go here, but yeah, so my playthrough, I went through the IGN guide list of how they have it laid out for the walkthrough. But I will say like pretty much from the first time I left the Coliseum towards like pretty much Halloween Town, I feel like the the main story of like Riku Kairi and like dealing with all that, I feel like kind of got like less quote unquote like important. There just wasn't like a lot of like developments that I feel like were like things that like I like really wanted to like so like I feel like in that middle section, I feel like the focus was more of like whichever world that you were in and retelling that story or like giving more context to that story, as opposed to the A plot, which was like Kairi, Riku, and Sora and all that. And so I did feel like this like sensation of like, oh man, like I want to know more about the Riku Kairi stuff and all that. Like I want to spend more time in that storyline as opposed to the Disney stuff. But I really liked how obviously the game ended, and I feel like my thoughts on like the overall story, like I feel like it's a lot of I feel like it's a story that I didn't realize would like really kind of revolve around loss, right? And like how different avenues will like lead you to that, right? In terms of like how you deal with loss and like how you really, you know, use your friends or use other forces that may not have been what you intended or what you really wanted to do as a whole. But like I feel like this that's like the one takeaway I have, where like I feel like this whole Kingdom Hearts like one story is like really about loss, and then a lot of characters finding their way and like seeing how they are quote unquote finding their way through this loss, and just comparing and kind of contrasting, right? And that's kind of like what I would say like overall like was my biggest takeaway. On top of like I feel like the more like on the nose things of like when you focus on like Sora's point of view, right? There's a lot of things of like having cooperation and friendship being at the forefront, right? Even from like a gameplay standpoint where your trinities, right? I don't think you can do trinities if you have like a different party member that's not
can't.
Donald or Goofy. Yeah, like that's what I know. It's like, oh, I'm like that's a really smart way to like kind of like directly tell you in gameplay like the Trinity is you, Donald, and Goofy, right? And then seeing how you get rewarded in that way for those Trinities, but then also it was like, damn, when like Riku was like, oh, you have your new friends, and it's like, no, like, dude, like we
It's
can
not like
all be
that. It's not like that,
It
homie.
hurts, right?
like
We
we
still
can all be
homies.
chill, like, bro, we're all trying to find Kairi, like, it's okay, So like, it's like so interesting how like this game like really like made me like feel frustrated in ways that I never thought I'd be frustrated with. Also, a lot of gameplay frustration for sure. Towards
Oh,
the
yeah.
end, yeah, definitely towards the end, where like I feel like this game puts you through the ringer towards the end of the game. Where like
Once you get
End
to
of the
Hollow
world.
Bastion,
Hollow
Hollow
Bastion,
it gets
Hollow
very
Bastion,
hard.
it's like, hey, we're done with the Disney stuff. We are back on the storyline that like we are back on plot A, but also like the gameplay is ramping up,
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, like I feel like there's also like a lot of like you guys mentioned that like you guys could see the seeds that are being planted in the story. And I feel like sometimes I feel like I saw those seeds, but the other times, like I'm really not sure if like it would lead to anything, but maybe it will. I don't know. I do think like leaving off the game, I tweeted the screenshot of it, like what exactly said, like
Just
against a blue sky.
we're not gonna react to what you
Yeah,
say.
that's fine. That's fine.
But like, give us some of those seeds that you
Seeds.
think are being
Yeah.
planted.
I feel like there's more to Sora hearing Kairi, right? I feel like it was more than just like him thinking about what Kairi would say or stuff like that, like or if it was intentional that like Kairi was reaching out and like speaking to Sora in a lot of different ways throughout the game. I think maybe that answer is that like, hey, like Kairi's heart, it was always within my heart, right? In mine, I mean Sora, right? Like I feel like that is something that maybe that's the answer to that, but I feel like there's something a little bit more to that. Having the game end on this blue sky and saying like, hey, remember Sora, you are the one who will open the door to the light, right? And the fact that that is said in the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, I feel like has to mean something, right? Like more than just like, I don't know, like more than just like, oh, like you'll like you're the one that is the key wielder. I mean, yeah, like the one that wields the key and everything, and you're. I don't know. I just feel like there's something more to that I'm not fully seeing yet. What else? I feel like there was a
Okay.
lot of them,
Okay.
but if like more come up, I'll tell
Okay.
you. But
But
I-
yeah.
go ahead, Alexa.
I do have a question for you because we haven't talked about like Ansem yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you feel like what do you think is going on there? Like what are your feel?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. So I did read the reports. Right. There
Okay.
was 10. Right. It was 10.
Ooh, they're 13.
Oh, 13, yeah.
Oh
13.
shit.
It begins.
Welcome to Kingdom Hearts, Kevin.
Because Aerith is like, hey, here's all the reports. And I'm like, okay, there's 10 here. All right, let's read them. So him, if I remember correctly, it was he made a discovery, I think, of like the dark.
I mean, I can look him up,
Right.
and we can do a little read through really quick.
Yeah, sure, yeah, for sure.
Dramatic reading of Ansem's diary.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we won't. I don't think we'll go that far. But you
But-
said like you're discovering something. Basically, I'm trying to figure out which one that is really quick.
Yeah, but like I do feel like Ansem's inclusion like was kind of random in
Okay.
some ways. Like maybe that was my fault in terms of like I read like the first report early on and then I didn't read them all till like after Ansem's introduced. So I feel like maybe that was like that was definitely like my fault in terms of like I should have just been reading them as I got them and everything. But how I feel about Ansem, I don't know. Like at least I don't have like that many like in-depth thoughts and opinions on Ansem. I do feel like he seemed to be like the quote unquote like big bad of the story, right? Like this I feel like I interpreted it as like he is a conduit through which the darkness like affects these characters in more than just like having, the heartless spawn and everything. Like I feel like Ansem like is like more of a face to the darkness and more of a personification in terms of like how the darkness affects these characters in a more deliberate way as opposed to just enemies. But
How do you feel about his
yeah.
role in relation to like Maleficent's role as like antagonists in this game? Like, did you feel more strongly about one or the other? Do you feel like they're like really connected? Do you feel like they're two separate plots? Like, how do you view that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Maleficent took advantage of Riku, but then I feel like Ansem was also taking advantage of both Maleficent and Riku. So I feel like it was more of like a backstabbing type of dynamic where like everyone just kind of backstabbing each other and like
more like a front stab. You know what I'm saying?
So, yeah. And then like
Oh,
unfortunately Riku is the one that like really isn't doing any like manipulation to really anyone. I feel like besides him like being like, oh, those are your new friends. I'm like, bro, like no, like we're all friends.
that hurt.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, bro, what are you doing? But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like Ansem was one of those characters that like, okay, like I understood was like the big bad behind it all, and I assume we'll see more of him throughout the series. And I'll
Maybe.
get more context from him, I feel like, in like later games. But yeah, like I think that's kind of where I'm at with
Okay.
with
Well,
Ansem. Yeah.
he is dead. You did kill him at the end of the game, so
I mean, yeah,
he is
but,
dead.
Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like is like I feel like this is gonna be one of those where like. Cause like
Oh my god, I can't wait for you to play these games. Oh my god.
Right? So like here's where I'm at, right? Like for the majority of the game, right? Like we would see like Kyrie's like still body, right? And like there was a part of me where I'm like, damn, like is this gonna be all for nothing? Like is like Kyrie like really gone? Like is her heart really lost, whatever? And then it ended up being like, no, like Kyrie can never be gone because she as far as I understood it, like her heart resides and is connected and bonded with Sora with that little like star thingy. What was that little star thing?
That is what you're saying right now is a very critical like
The little star
thing.
thingy?
No, what you're saying about like being connected to someone and like that kind of like survivability is very crucial in this series. Like it is it's brought up a lot. It comes up a lot.
Yeah, and like now I'm kind of seeing like okay, like this definitely feels Nomura in like terms of like like in like FF7, Sephiroth is a memory that haunts Cloud, like pretty much, even like in like Advent Children, and like it's even like there's a thing in Smash, I think, where or like there's a
in Smash,
where it's like
kind of
Sephiroth is just like a memory that will constantly haunt Cloud, like and it's I think just more of a lighter way where like to go off of like, do I think like Ansem is dead? Like, yes, I did do that boss fight, definitely did kill him, right? But I think the story has properly like told me as well that you can see Kyrie's still body multiple times throughout the story, right? And like, yeah, granted she's a protagonist, so take that with what you will as a player. But I feel like them really underlying that, like, hey, Kyrie's heart resides within Sora, right? And like that's where she truly was kind of like the whole time, right? I don't know if Ansem's truly, gone. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
But yeah,
that's
at least that's at least like what I feel like the game projected to me, at least.
Yeah, and I think that other games do this better, because like in Kingdom Hearts 2, not going to story spoilers, but like Kingdom Hearts 2, most of the Disney worlds you go to are 2 visits, where the first visit is this is the Disney story, and then the second visit, not all of them, but for most of them, is like, here is the A plot. Here is like the an antagonist that's in this world that you have to defeat, that is a part of the actual like a new character, like one of the new characters that are Kingdom Hearts originals. And but like I do think that in this game, for the first, Traverse Town, and then like the first like 2 or 3 worlds, there is like story stuff happening. And then when you get to Neverland, that's when things kind of start picking up again.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think that like all of the really, really good shit starts when you get to Hollow Bastion the first time. When like you show up, Riku just takes the Keyblade away from you. By the way, what did you think about that?
That was like, bro, what? Wait, I thought I was the one. I thought that I was the one. What do you mean? You can hold a Keyblade. What does that mean? And like is it before that point or after the point where someone says that like, hey, like to like close the door at the end of the game, right? Like it there's someone that says something about like you need 2 keys to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
I forget if that's before or after, and like it had not dawned on me until the end when Riku does it that like, oh, he locks it from the other side. Like,
well, yeah, Mickey does.
Well,
Mickey does.
Well, actually, Mickey does, but he's there.
Mickey did have a key.
Because this isn't particularly a spoiler. Like, I don't think that this is like if I was playing Kingdom Hearts for the first time and I was told this, I wouldn't be upset knowing what I know now. Riku's weapon is not a Keyblade.
Yeah.
It's not a Keyblade.
Not a Keyblade.
Okay, I totally okay, because I thought it was gonna be some sort of like yin yang type scenario where like he has some sort of like dark key. Okay, that's
nope.
That's
what
not
a Keyblade.
Okay, never mind. Okay,
it's just a weird looking sword.
It is a sword. It is a sword that
cool sword.
So just keep that in mind right now. It is a very cool sword. So yeah, the only 2 Keyblades that exist as of right now to you is Sora's Keyblade and Mickey's Keyblade.
But then how did Riku? How did he do that? What does that mean then?
We'll see. We will see. You will see.
Okay.
You will see, or maybe you won't see,
or not. Yeah, he might just give up.
Yeah, that might. That might have just been something that just happened. You know what I mean? Anyway,
I will say,
and like,
it just happened.
So one
Nothing
thing that
just happens in this
so
series.
one thing that I didn't really connect with, I want to talk about, because like we have this how like Donald and Sora have like this ongoing friction throughout the game, and obviously the part where like Sora stabs himself, and like Donald is like devastated, like that part's already super sad. But one thing I didn't notice until this time around. So going throughout the entire, going throughout the game, like Donald and Goofy's like, this train runs on smiles. The last thing that Sora does before stabbing himself to Donald and Goofy is he smiles. And that hit me hard, y'all. I was like, oh, wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
That just made that moment hurt even harder. Even harder.
There's
I don't know if like y'all noticed that before, but for me, I
Yeah.
had to mention it.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Alexa.
No, I was gonna say I just remember the teeth were animated so weirdly, and
Yeah.
that's why that memory sticks in my brain.
Yeah. It's funny when like the certain cutscenes were animated a certain way because of the teeth. Usually, it's
Yeah.
how you know it's time for a like more complex cutscene. But yeah, no, I really think the relationship between Donald and Goofy and Sora is really interesting in this one because like it's really interesting from a Disney character perspective because they're functionally using this kid for the first like
Straight
bulk
up.
of the journey. Like they don't care about him. He's just like a means to an end. And that is such a wild idea for Donald and Goofy to be like, yeah, I guess we'll take advantage of this opportunity while we can for our, insane business venture that is saving the universe. But it's a really interesting take on them that I think stays kind of true to those characters, but blends them into like it gives them a very distinct Donald and Goofy take, which I really appreciate. And it's moments like that that I think really help solidify how important they are to Sora's journey.
Yeah, I'll never look at Goofy and Donald the same from here on out. Like to
Yeah.
me, like,
It does.
I'm like,
It does.
y'all. Like, I mean, shout out to a Goofy movie, big fan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
of course.
for sure.
Yeah. So like, definitely like they have touchstones, obviously, but like now it's like, yo, you are Kingdom Hearts characters to me. Like, there's no going
Yeah.
back now. Like, we would do some stuff. I also like in terms of like the dynamic with like Sora, Donald, and Goofy that from Donald and Goofy, like yeah, like they definitely did use Sora in the beginning of the game for sure. But like it is really cool for at least I felt like it was cool for like King Mickey to be like, hey, search for the key, stick with the key, per like just be with the Keyblade, right? And so the Keyblade being this little kid, I don't know. I just like that dynamic of like I felt like both Sora and Donald, Goofy, and Sora, like from like two different standpoints, had to kind of like learn to mesh with each other. At least that's how I took it. Like, because I mean, Sora had to trust people that were not his friends from childhood, and I feel like the inverse effect of like I don't know how Donald and Goofy felt where the Keyblade wielder was his little kid, right? Like I'm not sure if that was like the most like reassuring thing to them. Maybe I'm breathing too deep into that, but like that's how I felt about it. Where I feel like it offered like a really cool perspective that they both have on each other as two groups, as like the King's Guardsmen, if you will, and Sora. So definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Are there any other moments we wanted to talk about, or anything regarding the game we want to talk about before I get into the fun facts behind Kingdom Hearts? Yeah, your notes. Yeah, you took
Yeah.
notes. We told you,
I'm curious to know, like, we talked about the seeds and we talked about stuff that you picked up on, but was there anything that like really like anything else sort of not in those two categories that really like stood out to you?
I know I'm going to think about it later on, and I got nothing right now. That's. Oh, you know what? There was one thing. I think I forgot which Final Fantasy character said it, but someone said that their universe got overrun by Heartless 9 years ago.
That is Hollow Bastion.
Yeah.
They mention it when they show up. They said that this was our home.
Oh yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. Gotcha. Got that. Okay. What else?
Well, while you're thinking about that, I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the secret movie?
Oh, okay.
Yo,
yes.
I don't. Yeah, I have yet to edit it and like send it to you, but like I feel like you're probably gonna be like a little bit let down. I don't know exactly what I saw. Right?
Yeah,
That's-
you're not
no, that's
supposed to.
Okay.
That is like
That's good.
that is
You're
all.
Okay.
That is all of
Okay,
Kingdom
cool.
Hearts secret endings. It's like, what did I just see?
Right.
Like, because this is the beginning. Like, here's the thing: Kingdom Hearts did the MCU before the MCU.
Damn.
Like, Kingdom Hearts,
It did.
like, if you were like, in the Kingdom Hearts like fan base or whatever, this was like this ending, like these endings to these games are all that we could like froth our mouths on for
Mhm.
years. Like when you got to like Kingdom Hearts 2 secret ending, which is still like one of the best cutscenes in video games, like we waited for like 5 years for like for that stuff to actually be resolved, and we're
Mhm.
and we're just like placing all these theories of like, who is this character, why does this character look like this, blah 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 blah, like all of this stuff. And it's just like, and yeah, but this first one was really interesting. Like I'm curious if like what your thoughts are so far. Like, who's this dude with the two keyblades?
Yeah.
What's Riku? What's Riku doing in this place? Like, I
Why
want
are
to
his
know like
eyes
your thoughts.
covered?
Yeah, why is his eyes covered? Like
Yeah.
things like that.
The only thing that stuck out. So no, there's a few things that definitely like stuck with me. I think the number one thing that stuck with me was I believe it's Riku that was meant to be saying this, but Riku I think says like, "Hey, you look just like him," or just like someone, and that was like, okay, like, all right. I'm gonna just note that there was like a really cool like area that I saw. It was like a purple like midnight like dark beach, with like these rocks on the
Yeah,
beach.
yeah.
So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's looks like a cool place, you know. The dual keyblade dude definitely looking hype. I would like to wait. Oh wait.
You'd like to what?
I mean, I would like to wield dual keyblades, but now I'm thinking of like the prospect of like, how does that work, right? Like,
I don't know.
like,
I don't know.
you know. So
So-
yeah, many questions. I think they were in like a city environment too at one point. Like
Mhm,
someone
mhm.
definitely runs up a building, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that's also very interesting.
Yeah.
We're dying right now.
I think-
Yeah, we-
I think
I was just letting my microphone be muted so that I didn't say
Okay.
anything
yeah,
accidentally.
I think that's about it. But like, mostly I was just kind of just like, it didn't mean a lot to me, and I was like, damn, like shit, like, did I mess something up? Like,
But
did
you
I
don't.
watch
But
the
no.
wrong-
No.
Alright.
But like, do you have like? Do you have any like theories though? Like, like if you just saw this, right, and you know that you had to wait a minute to play the next game, like what would your theories kind of be with what you're seeing? I know it's a hard question. I know it's a
Yeah.
loaded question.
I feel like the dark beach is probably a bad place, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The dual keyblade guy, that's interesting for sure. Not sure what that could mean. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was so out there that like I don't know if I have a lot. There is that thread of like someone looking like someone, which are we talking like relatives? Right? Like are we
What I will say, because
know?
it is a part of the movie, and I think that you can click these things together. There is a like a caption that says "Where's Sora"
Mhm.
in the movie.
Yep.
The hooded figure says "Where's Sora."
Where's Sora?
So,
So this person
I'm-
knows Sora, is what you're saying.
Maybe.
Like the other person that's like not Riku. Cause I think it's Riku that's like you look like. Is he? Oh, does that?
Yeah,
dude look like Sora?
Riku is the one who says you look just like him.
Just like Sora.
Yes, I will say yes, because he's like that is the topic they're talking about. So
That
this
looks
this
like
hooded character is
is
looking for Sora, and Riku says you look just like him, meaning
look
Sora.
just like Sora. I'm now trying to think,
So
like throughout Kingdom Hearts 1, like is there someone that
this is so fun to watch.
This is
yeah,
yeah.
now does someone like take over Sora? Like in the same vein of like towards the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 where like Ansem low key like takes over Riku's body, right?
Yeah.
Body snatching, yeah.
Yeah. Could that be something I'm playing? Much to think about. Interesting.
There's a lot to
So
Very
think
interesting.
about. Yeah.
Lot to think about.
I will say this, and this will help you keep this movie in mind. So, and I'm gonna bring up the goddess that is Yoko Shimomura.
Okay.
She uses her music in a lot of these secret cutscenes and in some of these secret extra boss fights to sort of let you know like who, like you can tell now that having played the series going back, I knew exactly who all of these people were based on the music that she was using. So keep the music from the secret boss fight from Final Mix and the music from this movie, which is called Another Side, Another Story, as you play Chain of Memories in Kingdom Hearts 2, because these melodies will pop up again and it will tell you, like, it will help you figure out where you're going.
Yeah.
She's great, and the way that she uses, like, well, as we get later in the series, it gets more complex now that we have 10 million characters, so we'll talk about that later.
I mean, like, there are other ways that you will find out as well. It's like a lot more obvious as well. So like if you don't figure it out, it's not like you're gonna be like cheated out of anything. It's more just kind of like bonus points if you figure it out. And also it's worth mentioning that like a lot of what you saw will actually be moments in the story moving forward. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Like a lot of the main moments, like that hooded figure and Riku, that will actually like happen in a game.
Wait, so the hooded figure looks like Sora.
Don't Google it. Don't
Google it.
No. Oh no, my bad. No, yeah. I would not do that. No way. But I'm just trying to like okay, the hooded figure looks like Riku thinks that he looks like Sora.
We'll see.
But
We'll see.
it's
We don't need don't need to marinate it on for too long. But like, I just want to know your general thoughts, and because this one is a lot. I think that this one, this movie, more than like any of the secret movies, is like the most vague, and especially because it's like it's the first game. Like, how are you supposed to kind of theorize these things to that level? Right. But like when you get to like the Kingdom Hearts 2 secret ending and like the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret ending, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is happening? Like, blah, blah. You're gonna know more things, and you're gonna be like, you're gonna be able to like theorize better. But I just kind of wanted to know your general thoughts, for the podcast and things like that. Because I'm excited to see your thoughts on when you watch it and all that stuff. So,
John, do you have any questions for me? I'm curious.
I'm
curious, John.
You've answered a lot. Ansem was going to be a big one for me, just out of curiosity. Other than just the wonderful voice acting of Billy Zane that we were.
Oh, so good!
It's so wonderful.
So good.
Too.
I like. I like Richard Epcar, who like takes spoilers. He takes over the voice after the first game. I don't know why. Does anyone know why? I never really looked into that.
They probably just couldn't get Billy Zane to come back. Yeah, I assume Billy Zane just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, no, I think I'm trying to think if there were any other like key relationships, because I will say you touched on a lot of stuff. Like, huge props to you, because I know we're like throwing you into the fire basically with this, and I think you touched on a lot of things that I am very pleased that you picked up on and also are already thinking about and already have the gears going on. Cool. So I, not at the moment, because there were things as you were saying them and then you would actually like answer a question I was going to throw at you. So if anything pops up before the end of the recording, I'll let you know. But I think right now you're pretty well primed. I think you're in a very good position going into the next few games, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think that you like noticing the theme of loss in this game is like very good. Like, it is very, because you think about like where the characters start and where they all end up, and they're all they're all separated, and they've all have lost something outside of just them, like, their friends. Like, Sora's lost more than just Kairi and Riku. Like, Riku's lost more than Sora and Kairi. There's more to it than just that. And just seeing where they all, like, it's like, hey, they've all been set on a specific path, and now we see where these characters go.
Right.
And I think that's what makes these characters, like, I love seeing these characters interact with each other, but like, I think that is one of the most, like, there are some issues, and I'm not going to get into what specifically. Me and Alexa kind of touched upon it earlier, but I think the thing that makes these everything so interesting is seeing these characters go on their own paths, not interacting with each other, and then meeting each other later and see where they are and where they go from there, and things like that. That is, like, because if they were all together all the time, trust me, this series would not be remotely as interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So
there was
yeah.
one moment also I told you, Cam, that I want to bring up too, where
Oh yeah.
where Goofy and Donald, like, they were ordered by the king to follow the key master, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then when Riku takes the key, they're like, sorry.
Sora, I'm sorry.
Dog.
Yeah.
I'll see you later, dog. But I do love that even without Sora wielding the Keyblade, they eventually come back to Sora's side, right?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
I love that, where it was like, hey, like, it just felt like a very, like, natural thing that both Donald and Goofy kind of came to, where I feel like it just worked out, like, in a very, like, underlying, like, friendship way, where it's like, hey, like, we all have a best friend, right?
Yeah.
And like, even when like, even if they are on bad times, right, or like they are going through something, whether it be their fault or not, right, there's like no explaining like why you still stick by them.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
there's like truly like yeah, like there's things that you can say and like but like I feel like it's a very like natural core thing to always back your best friend in anything, right? And I feel like
what
they
100%.
kind of lets that in a really good way. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those situations where, like, I'm sure like all of our best friends like don't live in the same city as us now, like like our
Yeah.
childhood friend, but like, if you hit them up, they will, like, and you need something, they got
absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
it's that kind of thing. Like, my best friend lives in Vegas, like, grew up with him since second grade. He was my best man at my wedding, but like, if I need to call, like, if I call him up for something, he's got me, and if he calls me up, I got him. Like, it's the same kind of mentality.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, that is all we got to talk about Kingdom Hearts. And what we'll do, I think this is a good idea moving forward, is like, before we get into like the next game, the next episode, if there's anything that we forgot in this episode that we want to talk about this game, in the Chain of Memories episode, we can be like, hey, this is something I want to talk about that I forgot to discuss, whatever it may be. We're lax here. We just want to celebrate Kingdom Hearts. So we're gonna go into some fun facts about the development and just other like general things about Kingdom Hearts. Of course, we got to talk about the iconic story that many people know about how Kingdom Hearts came to be, which was when the executive producer of the series now, Shinji Hashimoto, who I met at E3 in 2019, I think. And like, I just asked for a picture. I was like, I know you're a busy man, sir. I was like, just can I get a picture with you really quick? And you're the closest thing that I'm going to see to Tetsuya Nomura here. So I got a nice little picture with him. He was very nice and kind about that. And a Disney exec were in an elevator together because they were in the same building, like their offices were in the same building. And they're like, we should collaborate on something. And they're like, yeah, we should. And they led to Kingdom Hearts. So that's how that happened. And this is a funny thing that I actually didn't know until recently, about how Nomura specifically got attached to the project. Because again, like, this is the first project that he directed, and so it's like, how did he get his hands, the keys, into the Disney vaults that is Kingdom Hearts? And what happened was, he walked into a meeting where Hashimoto and Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is like the father of Final Fantasy, they were having a conversation that they had with Disney, and Nomura said, quote, "I had been called there for some completely different reason, but when I arrived, Hashimoto-san and Sakaguchi-san were talking about a discussion they'd had with Disney, having an exchange along the lines of, Mickey Mouse would have been great, but we can't use him. At that moment, I basically put my hand up and said, I want to be a part of this." And they basically said, like, all right, let's let Nomura have a try at this. So that's cool. And the reason why he did that is because Nomura wanted to do a project akin to Super Mario 64. And according to him, his colleagues said it would be impossible to make a 3D game like that with an all-new character. So when he heard about a collaboration with Disney, he just went for it. He was like, hey, I want to do this. And then regarding Mickey Mouse, it was worth noting that Squaresoft at the time wanted Mickey Mouse to be the main character of the project, and Disney wanted Donald Duck. Nomura wanted a new human character. He didn't want either. Nomura 100% got what he wanted when creating this game, basically. So much so that when Nomura was like, he went to Disney and they had like a bunch of presentations for him, he originally just shot down all the ideas of the game. He said that, quote, "They appeared to believe that we would make whatever they wanted us to make and came up with rather specific requests such as, we'd like the game to feature this character." They were really excited explaining their ideas. To be honest, though, I wasn't really interested in any of them. And he said, in the end, I actually stopped a presentation halfway through. We didn't have that much time, and it looked like it was all going to get taken up by various Disney presentations. So I interrupted them and told them the conclusion by saying, I won't make such games. What the hell? This is amazing.
Damn.
And then after that, he basically pitched Kingdom Hearts, and he showed the original vision of Sora, which was a boy that looks a lot like Sora, but with a bunch of lion-like features and a chainsaw-like sword for a weapon. And he said that Disney looked, quote, shocked, absolutely speechless at the design. Some other fun facts. Nomura just simply asked Hikaru Utada to do the song for Kingdom Hearts, and she was just like, yeah, I'll do it. That's how that happened. Something that's really important for the future of the Kingdom Hearts series, Sora is Japanese for sky. In Riku, land, Kairi, ocean. Kairi can also be translated to light. You know, with the princesses of heart and light, and yeah, so there's that. Ariel was originally going to be one of the 7 princesses because she is a princess. And this is a conflicting thing. I don't know which side is true. Alexa, you might know the right answer.
I have something to say about this.
So was it because she, like, the developers thought that she seemed too independent to be like pure of heart in that sense, or was it because of the they wanted to add in her gaining the storyline of Little Mermaid where she could like become a human and walk, and that they didn't have the time to develop that? Those are the two different versions of this that I've seen.
So, one, I have some thoughts on the princesses that they actually chose to be a princess of heart, because if you're like saying Ariel was not pure, and I mean her whole story was about changing her body to get dick, so like she's definitely like not a pure, not like a pure heart, whereas like compared to like Alice in Wonderland, Snow White, Aurora, Cinderella, like Ariel's not pure of heart. She's got a lot of shit going on. But on that same vein, like Jasmine also kind of has a lot of like shit going on. Like she basically wants to be, she's independent, and she's just as independent as Ariel, but she also is very much like non-traditionally minded, and I would say she's not like the total pure of heart either. She like deceives her father and like dresses up as a person and all that stuff. That's so fair. I don't know why Jasmine was chosen to Ariel, but I'm like, no, yeah, Ariel's personality did not quite fit the whole Princess of Heart thing. Because the thing is, like, you spend time in Agrabah, and in later games you spend time with like Belle and all these other princesses and stuff. So it's not that they they couldn't interact with her on the same level as other characters and be a princess of heart, because like you do with Alice too. It's the personality. It's the 100% the personality thing, which is weird to me.
So Ariel was replaced with Alice, even though Alice is not a Disney princess, but she is pure of heart.
Yeah, that confused me actually, because I was like seeing like who was in Hollow Bastion. And I was like, where's Ariel? And I'm like, okay, I guess she can't walk. I'm like, okay, all right, okay. I guess.
Well, yeah, that was basically it. That was basically it. Like,
she's PG-13. She's not PG enough to be a princess of heart.
I see.
And speaking of Alice, one really cool thing, Catherine Beaumont, the original voice of Alice from Alice in Wonderland, returned to reprise the role at 63 years old. She was 13 when she originally voiced the character.
Damn.
Wild.
That's why Alice sounds like that.
But it was good. I thought it was good.
It was good.
Yeah. Other cool facts, the cave drawings on Destiny Island foreshadow the events of Kingdom Hearts a bit. Nomura wanted both The Lion King and Toy Story to be worlds in the game. Lion King actually like made some progress, but they didn't have time to like add the technology to allow you to control someone with 4 legs, because Sora was going to take the form of a lion. Simba ended up getting a summon. Some Final Fantasy stuff. Tifa was planned to be a boss fight in the Colosseum, similar to Sephiroth, but was cut. Riku from Final Fantasy X was originally going to be in the role of Yuffie in that game, like what Yuffie's role is. But they didn't do that because there was already a character named Riku in the game. They didn't want to confuse people. And then Vincent Valentine was also planned to have an unknown role in the game, but was ultimately cut. However, Cloud's design was based with Vincent in mind. And that form is that outfit is known as Cloud's another form at this point. That's not in like Kingdom Hearts lore, but Square Enix, like that's what they call it. Also, this is wild. And like Nomura, if you're listening and you want to put my name in a game, feel free to do so. You have my permission. So in Agrabah, there's an optional boss called Kurt Zisa, Zisa, which is the name of someone who won a contest to have their name in the game. And literally, that's just the boss's name. Is this person's full name.
Yeah.
Kurt Zisa.
It's awesome. Also, other fun facts: Sora's 3 victory stances in the Olympus Coliseum are based off of Cloud, Leon, and Zell. Zell is a character from Final Fantasy VIII. For some reason, they didn't want to put Zidane or Zidane. I don't know how you pronounce it. From Final Fantasy IX. So there's that. Sora's outfit is directly inspired by Mickey Mouse. Trying to think about another really cool thing. We're talking about like the cutscene stuff, like depending on what happens. Because Olympus Coliseum, you can technically like not do until the end of the game at all. Like you don't have to go there, like blah blah, blah, none of that stuff. So if you go all the way to Hollow Bastion and defeat Maleficent, when you leave Olympus Coliseum the first time, where Hades is kind of like talking to himself, Maleficent doesn't show up because she's gone, which is really really cool. Of course, we know that Disney only allowed Square to use Mickey Mouse once in Kingdom Hearts. They were like, you can use him one time in one scene, and that's it. And this is one thing that is really cool. This is the last one I think is really cool that I didn't really think about until someone mentioned it. The cover art for the original release of Kingdom Hearts depicts Sora, Kairi, Donald, and Goofy looking towards a light being reflected off their faces. The only character that is not looking towards the light is Riku, eyes closed, facing away from everyone else.
We can all be friends, Riku. It's cool.
Symbolism. Symbolism, y'all.
Riku,
the symbolism.
Bad boy.
The pain I feel listening to you talk about Riku and knowing what you are about to go through, like, Kevin.
Like, Chain of Memories is the moment where I was like, Riku is my favorite video game character. Like, and there's still more after that, and it's so good. So yeah, there it is, everybody. Kingdom Hearts. We've talked about Kingdom Hearts. Next up is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Whether you play it on the Game Boy Advance or the remake, whichever you prefer. Some of us will be playing the original. Some of us will be playing the remake, and I'm excited to go back to this one because there's just so much to like. This is the game that I'm ready to discuss some shit. You know what I mean? Like Kingdom Hearts. Like I like Kingdom Hearts. Again, I'm kind of just like kind of in the middle of the road with Kingdom Hearts 1, but Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2 and Breath of Life, like I'm ready to talk about some heavy shit. I'm super excited to do that with you all. But until then, Jonathan, where can people find you?
You can find me at JM Dornbush on Twitter and Instagram, and yeah, just doing, if you want more JRPG goodness, doing a podcast about Persona 5, so you can find that as well. Take Your Time, it's called.
Yeah, you're almost done with that, right?
We're getting there. Yeah, just a couple more weeks, and then we'll have finished this 10-month sojourn that it was. Yeah.
Super dope. Super dope. Alexa, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AlexaRacy, and my publisher is doing I think a sale coming up soon where you can get all of the boss fight books together, and if you do, you get the secret Nightmare Mode anthology, digital only anthology, where my new essay on Kingdom Hearts 3 is. So go check that out if you can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go buy her book. And Kevin, where can we find you?
Yeah. YouTube.com is place in source. Road to Forbidden West still continues. First impressions are up right now as well on the game, which I playing that after this.
Yeah.
And Twitter at PSOurceVids, as well as Road to Forbidden West and all the other Road to series that will come in the future or that have already been are on podcast services as well. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, etc. All that good stuff. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it.
Awesome. And you can find me at CamFinalMix on Twitter. And so next up we have Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. But until then, may your heart be your guiding key.